Hello there, I'm Aldra Hill, and welcome to some more Imperator. With the game's release date fast approaching, everyone, I imagine, is getting a little bit concerned about what country they should play first. Maybe you're hoping to try and play a really difficult nation, or maybe you just want something a little bit easier so as to get to grips with the game and not die immediately. So I thought I'd make a little guide for the best starting locations for Imperator when you just get started with the game. Make sure to let me know also in the comments what nation you're most excited to play once you do finally get your hands on Imperator. I'd love to hear what kind of games you guys are going to be having and if I'm going to end up destroying any of you in my own games. And hell, maybe some multiplayer games as well. For starters, we have Crete. Crete is an interesting example of a noob island in Imperator. Every single game by Paradox seems to have a little area that is designed to be where you go when you have no idea what you're supposed to do. In CK2 it was Ireland, in EU4 it was Iberia, and for Imperator it would appear to be Crete. There is a good little series by Many a True Nerd where he plays Crete and does quite well with it, which I will link in the description, but the reason why Crete is so useful as a noob island is it is quite insular. It is separate from the Diadochi Wars, not being strictly allied to any of the main powers, and it's quite far away from everything else as well. In fact, from the very start, pirates start setting up shop outside your borders and you can't really leave anyway. It's a great little insular environment to practice claims and conquering and fighting small battles with limited soldiers because everyone's only really got archers and maybe some light infantry. You can work on capturing the small little cities you need to be able to form Crete and enact your first decision, and then from there jump onto Rhodes because they actually own one city that belongs in your province, which allows you to fully annex them and then get more range to be able to move towards Anatolia and start picking on Phrygia a bit later. One fun tip, you can probably import Camels at the very game start if you start as Knossos. This means you can actually recruit one single camel unit which does 15% more damage to archers, basically allowing you to destroy anyone in Crete's armies. Once you've mastered Crete, you might want to learn a bit more about how to manage a larger economy and start playing as a world power. A great nation to practice this with is Egypt. Egypt starts out as easily one of the strongest nations economically in the game, with a fantastic amount of population and also trade goods that they can sell at the very game start and start making tons of commerce income. There are also absolutely tons of mercenary armies that are just sitting around the Alexandria area, allowing you to basically just ignore your manpower and recruit mercenaries whenever you like. There are also easy powers to the south to beat up if you want to try and avoid conquering into stronger people for a little while and take a break, like conquering Kush. Sweet dank Kush. A great tip at the start, however, is to do an early war against Phrygia to try and take the Syrian and Palestinian lands and also Judea in a slightly separate war once you get your claims on the 1st of January. You'll easily be able to do that because they'll be too busy fighting Thrace and Macedon, and you can gobble up pretty much the entirety of the Levant. Once you understand all about the economy of a larger nation, now you can start getting into the nitty-gritty of mass conquests, and a perfect nation, of course, is Rome. Although it might seem boring and pretty obvious, Rome is actually a really fun nation. You can conquer a lot of nations really quickly thanks to some claims you get on the 1st of January. You also start with tons of manpower, plenty of iron and horses, allowing you to utilize heavy infantry and heavy cavalry. Furthermore, all the mercenaries that sit around Rome are in fact heavy infantry mostly, allowing you to reinforce your armies with mercenaries if you start running out of manpower. A great tip for the start of this game is to move north and fight the Etruscans as quickly as possible as soon as you get those claims. Fight with intelligence, a bit more than I did the first time I played it, and recruit a lot more heavy infantry and heavy cavalry to wipe the floor with their forces because they have a lot of light infantry. This is a great time to start learning the mechanics of different troop types and also understanding how best you can utilize terrain to win battles for yourself. And then also later on, once you've finally conquered quite a lot, to realize how difficult it is to try and keep an empire together. Once you got a little bit bored of Rome and you realized you can conquer the world and just have to struggle with not falling apart to barbarians, you might want a bit more of an historical challenge. The best nation for that would be Macedon. Alongside with being able to restore Macedon's former glory under Alexander, you actually get to do some really fun historical things like fight with Thrace against Phrygia. You get to play as Cassander, one of the most devilish Diadochi who ended up killing all of Alexander's last heirs, and just generally being a bit of a nuisance. He also then died pretty quickly. You can rewrite history and actually be successful and reunite and restore the Alexandrian Empire. Best tips for this are to recruit heavy infantry at the beginning, and then make sure you keep your alliance with Thrace to try and nick some land off of Phrygia, especially in the south of Greece. After that, move south and start destroying the territories near Sparta, but don't forget to watch out for Epirus and any other powers in the Balkans. Finally, once you got to grips with all the other base mechanics of the game with the major powers in the south and Mediterranean, you might want to try and play a bit of a different game and play a barbarian tribe in Germania. This plays like a very different game because you are so much weaker, with far fewer resources, money or manpower, but you also get the migratory tribal mechanics, allowing you to uplift your cities and settle them somewhere else, and also go raiding. This is a quiet game of colonization, trying to spread your borders further south to come into contact with the other great powers later in the game, while also raiding, burning, and capturing your fellow Germanic powers around you. This does start to play similar to other games like with Macedon, but the inclusion of migratory mechanics makes this a lot different. Some good nations to play with this, especially if you like historical things, would be Cherusia, who are the eventual guys who end up beating Varus in Teutoburg Forest, thus the famous quote, "Varus, give me back my legions." Eudocia, who are eventually known as the Jutes, who end up colonizing outside of Germania, and the Anglos as well, who would eventually form the basis of the British people once they settled there. Or the Lugians, who would eventually be the people we come to know as the Vandals many centuries later. There are so many different nations to choose from in Imperator, so it can feel a little difficult to pick, but I hope this video has helped you decide what nations you want to play when you do first get the game. I'll admit it can feel a little confusing considering there are quite literally scores of different countries, but pick something that has some historical significance to you and you probably should be fine. For example, I'm playing Cantasia because it's where I live, and it just seems fun to unite Albion, and I'm also playing Rome for, well, you know, cause it's Rome. Ultimately, the choice is going to have to be up to you. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped. Please let me know by leaving a like and a comment below if it has helped you, because that kind of feedback is really helpful and important. I was Aldra Hill, and I'll continue to be, and this has been some Imperator. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.